Okay. Good evening. Welcome into Sunday night edition of Hidden Gems one-on-one interviews. We're here with a new client, Delshaun Higgins. Delshaun's a running back. He spent time at Mid American Nazarene and the Vila universities. We're going to take a few minutes to get to know Delshaun tonight. I hope everybody's had a great weekend. Hope everybody's prepared for Monday. Mondays are always fun days, so hope everybody's enjoyed the weekend and prepared to start a new week. Delshaun, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you taking some time to do this interview.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Anytime.
So, what's been going on with you this weekend? Talk to us about your weekend.
Nothing much. Just been really just relaxing with the fam. Gotta watch a couple of good high school football games. Rain kind of was the element of surprise for some teams and stuff. So that was good to be seeing. And today just kind of just ended the weekend off with the family, watching a little bit of Sunday night football. Can't get no better than that.
No, you can't get no better than that. What's the weather like over there in Kansas City?
Right now it's gloomy. I tell people we can get four seasons in one day. I've seen it where you can get rain, snow, all that. Today's just kind of just really just been windy, kind of chilly. We supposed to be getting some rain tomorrow morning, so we're just
Yeah,
preparing for that.
yeah. Here in Tennessee, we're getting down into the upper 70s, lower 80s for highs.
Hmm.
Supposed to have some chances of rain next 3 days, and then I noticed a couple of people put out there on social media that there were some weather projections that supposed to be a big cold front come through
Mm.
about the middle of the month, and so it looks like we can get down in about the 20s and 30s over here. I don't know what that's gonna look like for Kansas City, but it's supposed to get
um,
pretty cold over here.
yeah, we're gonna get there. Right now, it's been like in the low 40s to 50s, and then kind of heat up. We ain't hit the 20s and 30s yet. We're gonna hit them here in a couple weeks though, for sure, beginning of November.
Yeah, absolutely. So your Chiefs are they play what tomorrow night, right? They didn't play today.
Yeah, I think they play Jacksonville, if I'm not
Yeah, they
mistaken.
got the Monday night game.
Hmm.
What's your what's your prediction on that?
I feel like they about to get it rolling now. I feel like Mahomes is gonna do his thing. I think Worthy, they downgraded him to questionable. He's with an ankle and a shoulder injury, so it's really just gonna be about the next man up, and defense got to do their job, and hopefully the running backs they can just come in and make plays. Thornton, the new receiver they got, I think he's from New England. He's been playing some good football lately, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna work with him, try to get Juju going, but. This next man up is gonna be see. I got him. I got him winning the game though for sure.
Okay, all right. We were talking offline. I told you I felt like they had gotten kind of complacent after a couple of Super Bowl wins, and I talked about the fact that they finally woke up. I guess it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and things started to kind of click again. And so,
Mhm.
um, hoping they can at least make one more run before the band probably splits apart. Kelsey's
Mhm.
getting ready to get married, and he's all about his bride to be, and Mahomes is just Mahomes, and
Mhm.
you know it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of make things work one more time.
Yeah,
But
it'd be nice to see him go out with a bang like that. I tell people the last time they went to the Super Bowl, they started off 0-2 and they still made it. So I mean, don't count them out yet. I
yeah,
mean, they gotta win their divisional games and hopefully get that first round bye. But other than that, I gotta feel like they got a good chance at it. Like you said, they gotta stay poised and they gotta act like they've been there and not get complacent with themselves and content.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Talk about college football's in season. Obviously, it was a big weekend of football. What were some of your takeaways from some of the college games?
Definitely UCLA with the upset against Penn State. I was not expecting that. That was a good
No,
game. I think
no.
that OC, that was like they just made him the offensive coordinator. Like I think a couple of days before that game, so it was crazy to see that. I tapped into the Florida game. That was very interesting. Miami. I think
Yeah.
Florida came out with the win on the upset on that one. Who else did I watch? I watched a little bit of Iowa State and Cincinnati. That one was a really good game. Cincinnati was up at like 21-7 at one point. Iowa came all the way back. They stayed poised, but they couldn't get the job done. I still think Cincinnati came out with the win. So it was a lot of good football. I feel like for college football this year is pretty good. It's been a lot of upsets, a lot of upsets. What
Yeah.
about
I was surprised to see UCLA pull out a win.
you?
Obviously, being a Tennessee Vols fan, being from the state of Tennessee,
Yeah,
we're not exactly real enthused or real happy about Nico Iamaleava. So,
yeah,
not that I was praying on his downfall, but I was we're all kind of happy to see his lack of success
Mhm.
for what he did to our program. So, which got the better end of the deal. Actually, we got the better QB of the two in the
Mhm.
trade. So that was pretty wild. I did get a chance to see today uh, video of UCLA's interim coach, Neuheisel. His dad is a former NFL coach and college coach, and he does one of the talk shows. And there was video of him jumping up and down in the studio celebrating when he watched his son win his first game. And so
That's
um,
awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool, for dad to see his son do that on national TV. I think Penn State's overrated. I think they've been overrated for a long time. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, they blew it against Oregon. Was it last week in the big primetime showdown?
Yep.
You go out to UCLA, who's not won a game yet, has been beaten by some of the most non-known teams in America, and you get beat. And I think James Franklin's kind of losing his magic touch a little bit up there in Happy Valley. So I was surprised to see Florida State um, take such a physical beatdown with Miami last night. That was pretty
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, and they quarterback, Florida State quarterback, he's pretty good. Like when I watched him a couple of weeks ago, I think they were playing. I think it was Bama. He was very poised. He held his own. So to see them like get upset like that and take that beat down, I was not expecting that.
I thought they'd be a lot more competitive. Carson Beck. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Carson Beck. The former Georgia QB.
Mhm.
There's been times this season he's not looked real sharp. There's been times where he's been on. There's been times he's kind of been on again, off again kind of deal. And so I thought it'd be way more competitive. But Miami is kind of looking like Miami of the old days. They're putting some
Mhm.
physical whippings on people.
Yeah, I think with having Michael Irvin there, that's giving them that little touch, that little pizzazz.
Somebody, my neighbor, called me last night and asked me about that. He was like, "Is Michael Irvin a coach?" And I said, "No, he's an alumni." And I said, "All the alumni have access to the sidelines." I said, "This is like one of the only programs in America where all of their former players have sideline access." And I mean, I'm talking right on the bench with the coaches on the sideline. And I think it's really cool because if you've ever seen the documentary The U and you've seen how the program was built, the tradition, the
Mhm.
winning, the championships, all those kind of things, the standard being built, um, I think it's pretty cool how they're on the sideline. And if things are not going right, those former players will go over and snatch up the new players and let them know, like, this is not acceptable. This is not how we do business at Miami. Like, you have a responsibility to our legacy here to play the way we played it. I just think it's a really cool thing that they're so involved and they take so much pride in that program. They're not willing to just stand by and let the newer generation maybe have moments where they slip and they're not as competitive or whatever. Um, I love Michael Irvin's energy. I mean,
Yeah.
man, he's
Yeah.
got energy for days. But my neighbor was asking me about it. I said, "You'll see Ray Lewis on the sideline, Ed Reed, Shockey, McGahee." I was like, the list goes on and on. Like The Rock, all these guys, you'll see them on the sidelines, and like they're like big brothers to the current generation. They have no problem going over and being like, "You need to get your head out of your rear end. Like, this is not how we do business here." And so I just think it's really cool because I've never seen another team have players that come back and are on the sideline and have that kind of influence
Nah.
with the current.
I think the only school that I've seen that might have done something similar to that is Colorado, but it's more of them just having like celebrities and all types of players.
Oh, yeah, because of Dion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Dion, he brings all the performers and singers and different people out. Miami is just all former players. It's this big ordeal. They're not going to allow that program to fall apart. If they have anything to do with it, they're going to be right there and they're going to re-energize those kids and make them understand at Miami we fight battles. We don't just fold, and I just think it's really cool. I've watched the documentary countless times, and I had a chance to actually talk to Coach Snellenberger several years ago when he was at Florida Atlantic. It was really funny. I was coaching high school ball. This has been years ago, and I was working with some kids for recruitment. And he had a Facebook page, and I was like, "Oh, it's a fan page. Somebody's running that in the background."
Yeah.
So I sent a message anyway. I left my phone number and everything. I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get these kids recruited or whatever." And I got a phone call. And it was actually Howard Snellenberger on the other end of that phone. And I was really surprised that he got my message and called me. And I was like a kid in a candy store. Like, I didn't know what to say.
Sure.
I just want to talk to Coach Snellenberger, and like that deep growly voice I heard on the other end. I was like, that's Coach Snellenberger. Like, this is really happening. So that was pretty cool. But to see the documentary and how the program was built, the standard, the tradition, all the former players that played in the league, to know how they go back and they, they have so much pride in that program. Vilma, I mean, that list goes on and on and on for days. And so I think it's really cool. But I didn't expect Florida State to get beat up so badly. And then who else did? Arch Manning didn't look real good with Texas.
Yeah, they didn't do good. That was his first SEC start on the road, and I hate to say it, but I feel like the hype on Arch Manning is a little bit. I feel like he's a little bit overrated. I feel like he got to get his feet wet in a little bit more games, get a little bit more comfortable.
I think Arch's going to take a while to grow into the shoes that he is expected to fill. I don't think he's quite on his uncle's level or his grandfather's level yet. He's got a ways to go. I don't know what's going on with Texas. They've not looked good at all season. Like they've really struggled week to week. So that was kind of a surprise to me that that they had such a rough outing yesterday. There's some good ball games on, and then obviously today's been some good ball games. We were talking offline about the Colts beating down the Raiders and the Texans beating down the Ravens. I was really really just surprised with that one, which I guess I didn't realize all the injuries, but um, I just thought Baltimore would be more physical and have more fight in them, and
Yeah,
obviously not. That was not obviously the case. So, um, but yeah, it's been a good week of football so far.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I've been telling everybody. I feel like this year has been a lot more balanced, just with the upsets. Not people expecting we would think would win. You know, just any given Saturday and any given Sunday, you just got to really just come out, just come prepared.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, I will say this too that I was kind of surprised. Um, I thought Vanderbilt would do a little bit better, but I
Hmm.
think they did pretty well battling Alabama for the most part. I thought that was a pretty good ball game overall, but I knew Vanderbilt would get beat. I just
Yeah,
thought they'd keep it a little bit closer.
I think
Um,
going into that game, Vanderbilt, I think they were undefeated. I think they were like 5-0 or something like that before that.
yeah, but they didn't play nobody. Play a
Yeah.
bunch of cupcake teams.
Hmm.
That's pretty easy when you're Vanderbilt to do that.
Yeah.
But I'll give them credit. They 5-0. They look like a football team that's put together correctly. They got a coach that's doing a great job with them, and I think that there's some more teams that they're going to surprise, but I didn't foresee them getting past Alabama.
Hmm.
Alabama might be struggling a little bit this year, but Alabama's still Alabama.
Yeah,
So
they still got good players. They still got good recruits. They still got legit coaches. I think what everybody is just everybody's so used to Bama winning just in the Saban area and the Saban era and stuff like that. So to see them actually like losing a game here and there and giving that head coach a hard time, I think Bama's gonna be fine. Like when the college football playoffs start, if they're in there, I think they're gonna be okay. As long as if they got everybody healthy, they on the same page, they doing what they doing, they'll be fine.
well, I think one of the things, Alabama is another one of those programs, tradition of winning and a history of championships. And you've got a new coach that has said he's more of a player's coach, and um, he's he's allowed the kids to you know not be quite as disciplined. There was rumors that players were late to workouts, late to meetings, not showing up at all. Um, and I think after they took that first beating, I think some of the leaders on the team kind of said, "Okay, look, we got to stop playing around. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got to get things back on track again." And so I think a lot of the leaders went to some of those players and said, "Look, you got to start showing up. You got to start doing what you're supposed to be doing. You can't keep playing around." And I think it was a good wake up call for them, um, to take that beating and to understand that, hey, this is serious business. This is not playtime, and so, but it's still Alabama, and they'll still play good, and it'll be interesting to see how some things shake out over the next couple of weeks. And we're getting into the middle of the season. Um, Pretty soon we're going to have Thursday night football, college and pro. So we'll have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday all the way around.
Don't get
That's,
no better than that. I love it.
yeah, best time of the year. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty interesting. But let's talk about your story. Um, Obviously, you played at a couple of different places, but I want to start back at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, well, obviously you're from Kansas City, but talk about where you played your high school ball and how your journey began in football.
Really, for me, it began, I would say, roughly around like eighth grade.
Okay.
A lot of kids in my area, they was already like grew up together, Pop Warner, Little League football and stuff. My parents had concerns about like concussions and stuff like that. So really, I started off at Raytown. I started off at Raytown High School. That's where I went at. We played 6A ball. My senior year, we were pretty solid. I mean, we had some good contributing players. We had some leaders on that team, but I feel like for us, we couldn't get over that. We couldn't get over that hump because it was just all on this. Like you said, we was talking about Bama accountability. People just showing up on time, people doing what they need to be doing. So I think that that year we ended 5-6. We lost in the second round of the playoffs. So really from there, I kind of already knew that what I wanted to do with my life, and I knew I was going to get another opportunity. I just didn't know where and how it was going to come. So going into that off season, I really just put in a lot of work, just making sure to getting my grades right, supporting my other teammates that was blessed to get an opportunity to go play in college. And for me, I would say I was more of a late bloomer. I didn't really get my first offer until around track season coming out because I still had to get like the ACT score up and everything back then. Nowadays, you don't even need to have an ACT to get admitted to schools and stuff. So with me, I was blessed enough with a spot at Missouri Southern State University. My first year going into there, I redshirted. Wasn't the year that we was expecting. We got like a whole new coach, whole new coaching staff. They went from winning multiple games, conference games. They were really known for the triple option around that time, and then kind of switched around, got a new coach, got a new system in there. They went 0-10, and that kind of really just had me thinking like, I ain't never experienced that going like 0-10, and some of my old teammates and stuff. We talked about it, and before even like the transfer portal was a thing, like we could kind of already sense it that like people was leaving. So I just tried to stay loyal, try to stay loyal to the new coaches. Like, hey, like I'm here to stay. Like I'm ready to contribute. Anywhere you need me on offense, defense, special teams, like anything that I can do to make myself better, and most importantly, the team better. I'm willing to do it. Going into that next season, we did better. I think we won about like 3 games, and at that point in time, I was just like, I'm kind of ready for a new start. So I was blessed with another opportunity at Mid American Nazarene University. Coach Wilmer brought me in out there. That I would say would be my introduction to knowing like how we were just talking about, Bama being established and, Miami having like they former players on the sideline holding them accountable and stuff. That's when I got like that real atmosphere and the taste for it with going to Mid America Nazarene. Going in there, we were ranked like top 20 in the nation. We was always competing for conference championships, competing for games, but was just we couldn't really get over the hump. It was just when we play those other teams that had more depth, had a little bit more skill set players on offense, defense, special teams. Importantly, that's what kind of hurt us. But definitely, I love my time. I love my time there. It helped me grow as a person, learn myself more as a man, and then kind of going in. I was there for about 2 years, and then I finished up at Avila University. Really, I just went there. I kind of just wanted to be home, be closer to the family, friends. My brother at the time, he was growing up. He was getting ready to graduate, so I kind of wanted to be around him, kind of show him the ropes and stuff. And Avila, I would say, really, really like took off for me. Like they ran stuff there, like when I was there, like the Patriot way. Like we couldn't be late to practice, couldn't be late to films, couldn't be late to really pretty much anything. If you showed up 5 minutes before practice time, like you still considered late. So They set that standard and they set that tone there, showing up 15, 20 minutes early, making sure, you got your notebook ready, you taking plays, you studying and stuff. When you in, practice, making sure you locking in. And my first year there, we did pretty good. We I think we finished the season, I want to say like 7-3.
Okay.
And then really from there, I kind of already knew like, hey, I want to come back. Being around a group of guys and an organization and a staff and, a supporting system that backed us all up, we knew that we had unfinished business. So going into my final year at Avila, we went 8-1 that year. We lost our first game, kind of like we were talking a little bit offline with Bama. After we lost that first game, we held a players meeting only. Everybody said, hey, like we worked too hard for this. All those nights that we put in, all the two-a-days we put in, all the nights we put in the weight room and stuff, like this is where it counts. So really we came out, we won every game. We ended up winning conference. So that was nice to be a part of, for me going through my journey, trying to figure out who I am as a person along the way and like trying to find the right organization in school for me. It was refreshing and fulfilling, to get that. So definitely that was a beautiful experience. And then stayed there, ended up just getting my master's degree in this past fall. That previous after year we won the conference again, did everything that we needed to do. And that's kind of really just my journey right now, where it's at, fresh out of just graduating, I'm just staying training, staying working out, staying poised, just getting ready for an opportunity, getting ready to prep for these combines and showcase my skills and hopefully get blessed with an opportunity to run it back again with another organization as far as overseas, in states, arena, somewhere.
Absolutely. So going back to your high school days, were you a running back when you first came into football as a high school player?
Yeah, I've always been a running back.
Okay.
High school for me, I was definitely more smaller. Like speed is what really helped me out. Like my senior year, I was definitely undersized. I was like five. I think I was like 5'7", maybe like 160 pounds wet. So
Okay.
definitely like when I got, that's what kind of held me back from getting like those big schools or like really any opportunities because at that running back, definitely want a little bit more weight on you and stuff like that. And yeah, kind of just when I transitioned in college, kind of just always done the running back. Kind of always did a little bit of slot stuff like that. When I was at Mid America Nazarene, they kind of just ran like a pretty base California based style spread type offense. Wasn't nothing like too major, too difficult. It was pretty understandable. But once I got to Avila University, that's where it kind of like turned it up a notch for me a little bit. Getting more familiar, running different offenses. Running the West Coast style, running the spread, running the pistol, no huddle offense. We was more of a fast type offense, and everything that we called in was based off hand signals and stuff too. So I feel like nowadays that's how you have to be, more of a fast pace and the signals and stuff. Like having a traditional huddle and, calling in plays and stuff is good. But, the element of surprise is, keeping the defense on their toes, being fast, being quick, being efficient.
That's true. The up tempo is and the spread obviously is the favorite currently. In this era of football.
Mm-hmm.
Football is a cyclic sport, so eventually, in the years to come, it'll probably cycle back around to running the football and then setting up the pass, and there may be a little bit more incorporation of pro style offenses and things, and so
Mm-hmm.
I know that um, some programs in college currently utilize like the old I formation and different things like that, to kind of throw a wrench in what defenses are expecting to happen, because most of them expect the spread, and then when they see a team go old school, um, it kind of throws everything for a loop, for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. So you've been pretty opened up to various offensive schemes and things. What do you feel as a running back? Where do you feel that you fit in best? What scheme fits your abilities the best?
Definitely, I would say more of the spread, more of a pro eye. A lot of people when they look at me, they feel like just because I'm a fast back, like I can't get in the trenches, I can't get in between the tackles, and be a downhill runner. But I just tell people, you gotta be physical. As a running back, when you got that ball, you can't run scared. When you got defensive linemen coming at you that can run 4.3s, 4.5s, and stuff, you
Yeah.
got to make sure that you're ready. So for me, definitely, I would say my bread and butter. I feel like I can do it all. Downhill, counters, zone, spreads. You can line me up in the slot, one-on-one coverage. I feel like anywhere that you can put me on offense or whatever, I can get open. I can not only make something happen for the offense, but I feel like I can make stuff happen for my other teammates around me too. Because football is just more than just an individual sport; it's a team effort. So if I'm not doing good, or if the quarterback's not doing good, other guys have to step up, like we were just talking about offline. Like it's the next man up. You gotta build your confidence up. So if I'm not doing good, the offensive line got to hold their weight. If they not holding their weight, I got to be there to uplift them. If a receiver is getting double coverage and stuff, I got to make sure, I step up and I make that play going into the slot of the running back.
Absolutely. Talk about a little bit about your experience working out in the slot as a running back. What types of routes are you used to running, and what have you been utilized? How have you been utilized, I should say, in that scheme, running routes? What do they usually have you doing?
Usually in college, what they had us doing, or specifically with me and like the other running backs, kind of our running back room was more of a like more balance and speed back. So whenever we line up in that slot, they would have us run, slants, corners, zigs, outs, posts. Sometimes they even have us line up as like the X or the Z receiver and go out there and run go routes and stuff. So, me being exposed to like a lot of different offensive schemes, playbooks, being around different coaches and seeing like how everything floats, I kind of just tell people, something I did for me that I feel like that helped me. Every playbook that I've learned, every offensive scheme that I worked in, like I take something to it. I try to suck that knowledge up like a sponge, and I put it in my own toolbox. So really, my time at Avila, that's kind of really how it was. Like they had us line up in a lot of slot. We were in like a lot of slants. We would play the X or the Z receiver, run some goals, run some post routes. They really just had us just doing any and everything.
Okay, I got you. What about when it comes to pass protection and being a running back? Obviously, one of the big components of the running back resume, and I talk to running backs all the time about this, is there's really four main components. There is your ability to run the ball at a high level, make big plays, um, your ability to be a slot receiver, a true slot, your ability to be a receiver out of the backfield, and the fourth component is your willingness to block and pass protection and your ability to be physical while doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how how much importance do you put on as a running back being able to handle that component of the running back resume?
Oh, most definitely. I feel like that's something that is a necessity in a back that you need to do. Being able to pass pro, pass block, you know, pick up reading the linebackers and stuff. Like you said, getting in them trenches and getting your hands dirty, and not only protecting yourself but protecting the quarterback and making sure you're keeping the play alive. So I definitely say as a running back, I agree with you. That's definitely one of the main things that you have to have. Like you could be the fastest player on the field, you can do everything right and catch everything, but in that pass roll, if you can't block and you can't do it, you're not gonna have a longevity of a career for sure.
That's true. Very true. Right now, what are you height weight wise? What are you weighing in at, and how tall do you stand currently?
Right now, I'm about 5'8". I'm about 190. Kind of just been playing with my weight, trying to find that like happy touch feeling where I'm at. I feel like a good weight for me is right now at 190. But
Okay.
definitely I'm open to pitting on a little 5 to 10 more pounds, being 195, 200. The heaviest I've ever been was probably about 3 months ago. I was like 197. Felt
Okay.
felt pretty good. Felt pretty good. You could run around with it, and then kind of dropped down to the 190. Still kind of trying to figure it out, but definitely for me, I feel like that 190, 195 is going to be my bread and butter.
Okay. Okay. I got you. Now, when it comes to the 40 time, uh, if we were to line you up today and put you under the gun, what do you think you clock currently?
Definitely, I would say anywhere. If I'm being honest, with the weight that weight range right now where I'm at, I say if I was running for it, I'm gonna clock in at like a 449, maybe a 451, 453 at worst. But something that I've been working on is just I'm training 2-3 times a week. I got me a personal trainer. I got me a speed performance trainer as well. So going into these combines, my goal is definitely going to be into like that sub 445, 447 range for sure.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about that. That you mentioned that. Take us through a week with Delshaun, training wise. Your what? Talk about the regimen that you have set up currently for yourself. and walk us through each day. So before you answer it, what I'm looking for is how many days a week are you training, which you obviously just alluded to a little bit. What are you focused on each day? Um, talk about, uh, are you working with a position coach outside on the field for fundamental technique
Mm-hmm.
improvement? You obviously talked about a speed and agility coach. Talk about what are you doing for flexibility? Are you going to yoga classes? Are you one of those athletes that says, "Hey, I got bands. I do my own program."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then talk about your diet. Are you adding protein, trying to put on more muscle, more weight to the frame, take weight off, lean out, kind of go through that component, and then lastly, talk about recovery. Every athlete has their own thoughts about what they like recovery wise, and especially now being a former college player trying to go pro. Obviously, now it's upon you to kind of find the resources and set up your own plan and program that
Definitely.
you feel works for you. So, in that last part, talk about, are you a cryotherapy guy? Are you an ice bath guy? Do you like cupping, massages, acupuncture? Like, what's your thing? So, that's kind of what I'm looking for an answer to that particular question.
Oh no, most definitely. Definitely if I had to throw you through my workout schedule on a Monday through Sunday basis, I'm in the gym with my personal trainer about 2 to 3 times a week. Really, right now we focusing on like plyometrics, speed and endurance, burnout, trying to gain muscle mass, but really trying to build endurance. Because I feel
Okay.
like for one of those things when you go into these combines, like you can run your 40, you can run your 5, 10, 5 drills, you can run routes good, but when you get under that bench press on that 225, you want to be able to show like, hey, like you can actually throw some weight too, and you want to make sure that it can contribute and show that it can contribute to on the field as well. So
Mhm.
really, for me, I'm in the gym about 2 to 3 times a week. Maybe one day we working up on upper body, doing bench press, doing like a little bit of assault sprints, kind of in between with a 1 to 2 minute break, focusing on power cleans, kind of mixing it up, kind of just doing a little bit of everything on upper body. And then when we go into our leg days, more focusing on like more of a heavy load day, doing barbell squats, trying to figure out your power output phase. Right now, for me, I tell people like a good power output phase when you squatting is anything above a 0.55. So really right now, that's been my bread and butter, just making sure that that power output phase is really good, having that good power phase, doing some reverse hypers, um, hang, clean, snatch and jerks, pretty much just doing any and everything like in the gym. Like we go hard in the gym because we understand like trying to be an athlete and like you said, trying to get that opportunity to go to the next level when you talking to these other teams and stuff like that. You just don't want to sit there and say you do it, then you go on the field in training camp and you can't show for it. So definitely that's something that we focusing on right now. And as far as with my performance and speed trainer, I'm working with somebody right now. We go about 2 days a week. We're really just working on ladder drills, working on agility, cutting, cone drills, speed, really just the whole thing, prepping for these combines, doing combine stuff. We done already took some numbers for the 40, for the 5, 10, 5, the cone drills and stuff. Got an idea of like the goals where we want to be. So actually seeing like your numbers where you at and going through everything and making that progress is actually, refreshing and exciting to see. And
Right.
then as far as like recovery, I feel like recovery is one of the most important things that you have to do. So I make sure that I stretch in the morning before I start my day, make sure I stretch before I go to bed, making sure that I'm sometimes getting some pull workouts in, getting some laser therapy, if I'm dealing with like any inflammation, get a massage about once every 2 months. Try not to go too heavy on it because sometimes if you overdo it, kind of tighten you up. But really just doing everything and like the chirotherapy, the time chamber, working on recovery, enhancing the muscle recovery, just trying to stay healthy. And for me right now, I would say with my diet, I'm consuming anywhere between about like 28 to 3,200 calories a day. So for me, that would consist of me eating 3 to 4 times a day, in the morning, making sure that I'm eating a big breakfast. That's the most important meal of the day. Make sure you
Right.
get something that's sticking on you in between. I make sure that I have 2 snacks. So for me, it's morning time, get my breakfast, and then about another hour and a half, I'm getting the snack. And then, all right, we got lunchtime. And then in about another hour and a half, we get a snack. And then right before we go to workouts, make sure I get me a little snack, give me a protein shake in, get me moving, get my blood flowing and everything. And then immediately, right after working out within like 30 minutes, getting a meal in me, replace some calories that we burned, making sure that we helping aiding muscle recovery, finish it off with a nice dinner. I make sure by like 8 o'clock, I'm not really eating anything else. So I'll probably say every day, something that I've been doing on every, I'll make sure I give me a peanut butter and jelly, a glass of milk in before bed, get something to stick on you, kind of just really just being rigorous and following that routine because, when you're really going at it, you're working out 2 to 3 times a week with your personal trainer, you got your speed performance trainer, and you're moving and grooving at work all day and walking, you burn a lot of calories. So you want to make sure that whatever you're burning, you're replacing it. So for me, I feel like that happy spot for me right now is 2,800 to about 3,200 calories, making sure that I'm getting my meals in. But that's typically like a day for me. And sometimes on the weekends, maybe every other weekend, I might do some stretching myself with like some resistant bands and stuff, focusing on that. Always got to make sure you get a day in for that, a rest day, get the body to recover. But we in talks of right now trying out some yoga or some Pilates, trying to figure out when can it fit in the training regimen, seeing if it is going to be beneficial. In college, that's something that our strength and conditioning coach implemented with us a lot. We were grateful enough to be blessed with a yoga instructor on Sundays after
Okay.
games, mornings and stuff. So just really just trying to just staying just true to myself and just staying true to my training regimen just so I can stay ready for this opportunity.
How important has it been to have those resources, including the like speed and agility coach or strength and conditioning coach or um, yoga instructors, different people around you that can help enhance different parts of your workout and your training regimen?
Oh, it's been very helpful. I tell people, all the time, like, even when me just graduating with a master's degree, like I don't know everything. It's always room for improvement. Science and the body is an amazing thing. So,
Yeah.
having a group and a team and a support system around me, that can, help me know more how to take care of my body and understand the importance of health and recovery. I feel like it's very important. I tell people all the time, like even if you're not an athlete, I encourage you to get a personal trainer. Even if you go into the gym once or twice a day, go on a jog, get you a yoga instructor, try to get you a nutritionist, like get some blood work done, try to find out like what you need to keep your body fueling. Because, we can sit here and we can say we know everything, but, it's always people out there that's willing to help you and to learn the game and improve. So for me, obviously, I'm very thankful for the support system and the crew that I have behind me, and we really just all on the same goal, which is, living a healthy lifestyle, taking care of the body, and, staying ready for an opportunity when it presents itself because availability is the best availability.
That's true. That's very true. When you when you started this particular workout regimen that you're in right now, what kind of things did you look at and identify that hey, to take that next step to become a professional athlete, I need to improve this or I need to be better at that or I need to make sure that this is ramped up and you know at a premium level. What things was it that you identified with your either on field game or your off field game that you felt just had to take another step?
Definitely for me, just my recovery and, taking care of my body. In our younger days, and when you in high school and you a red shirt freshman or a freshman in college, you don't really got to go out there and do it. You can, get you a stretch in and stuff, and you'll be good to go. But it's for me. talking to my group behind me, longevity is the goal. So just making sure that you're keeping your body right, making sure you're keeping your explosiveness, keeping your bread and butter. For me, my speed is what I've been blessed with, has always like helped me over the edge. So, just stand on top of my speed, building that endurance, working on my hips, working on my explosiveness and stuff like that, making sure, when you out there, you running your 40s and stuff, like, okay, like, yeah, you can run a 4.4 and you can run a 4.5, but can you last a full 4 quarters? Can you maintain that regimen and that speed for a full 4 quarters? Can you do that? Because that's what's most important. I tell people all the time, like, don't really matter what you do in the first and the second quarter or the third quarter and the fourth quarter. That's what counts. That's where you got to make sure you got the energy left in the tank. So when you lined up against that opponent next to you and you know that, hey, this is what I've been training all year for. This is why I'm in shape. This is where my endurance is at. And, you can see that look in their eyes where they just tired and, they just hanging on. That's what really draws me in, is like, okay, yeah, like, it's time to put the nail in the coffin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, talk about leadership. On the field, there's typically two main types of leaders. There's usually the loud, boisterous, rah rah leaders, the Ed Reeds, the Ray Lewises, and then there's those quiet, bring their lunch pail to work, lead by example kind of guys. What type of leader would you say that you are, and why do you say that?
I would say I'm more of a balanced leader. I would, like you, how you said, like with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis. We know them as for being very motivational.
Mm-hmm.
You hear them talk. They'll have you want to run through a brick wall, and then you got them
Yeah,
other people that just show up. Okay, like, I'm just here to do my 9 and 5. I'm gonna stay cool and calm, collective in the back, and I'm gonna get mine. I feel like for me, I'm an all around. I'm a team player. For me, being around, you know, different different people from different ethnicities, different programs and stuff like that. It has definitely helped me on my leadership. So, I always try to tell people, like, if practice is we got weights at 7 a.m., like, let's get there at 6:30. Let's make sure that we getting there, we getting stretched, we getting warmed up, we getting loose. Let's make sure that we not taking reps off. Every rep we take off, it could be 1,000 other players out there that's, getting that extra rep in, getting those extra workouts in, or whatever, that's getting ahead of you, getting ahead of the game. When we in practice, just more of uplifting each other, not trying to be the loudest person in the room, but, bringing everybody together, letting everybody know, like, hey, like, we in this together, If one man fall, we got to be there to pick him up. I've never been that type of guy where it's just like, oh, like, I'm gonna worry about my stats, I'm gonna get mine. Like, no, as long as if we get the dub, we get the win. I don't care how we do it. If I touch the ball 2, 3, 4, 5 times for 50 yards, and it's not really contributing. But if I can, help my teammates out with, like, making that key block, or making that key catch, or uplifting another teammate that might have his confidence down, and we can come out with the win. That's where I say where it really matters. With having leadership, like, it's not about what you also do on the field. It's about how you carry yourself off the field as well. Like, you could be a superstar on the field, but how do you take, like you saw, we was talking about earlier, how do you take care of yourself off the field? How are you off the field? Are you in the clubs every weekend? Or are you just always on social media? Or you that person like, hey, like, yeah, we won the game, but what can we do to get better? Like, let's get back in the weight room. Let's get back in the film room. Let's study. Let's make sure that anything that we need to do to make ourselves successful, to be the best at the best, the cream at the top, that's what we want to do. So I would say, for me, I'm a team player. I'm very uplifting. I'm not just about a person that's about myself. It's about all of us. Football, you can't be done with one person. There's no I in team. It's a group joint. We all have to do it. It comes from the coaching staff, the players, the athletic trainers, the fans, the rehab recovery process, the teachers, everything. So for me, being a leader is really just being brought into the whole system from the ground up, and being brought into it with your teammates, and just staying committed at the end of the day. Times is gonna get tough, times is gonna get hard. You might see that fog, and you might see those clouds, but uplifting one another and being with a group of guys and a community and a staff and a program that can we can all together get to the top of the ladder and get to the other side. That's where it's the most fulfilling. That's where it's the most fulfilling. So for me, definitely, my leadership. I'm a team player. I'm always up trying to uplift each other, never trying to talk down on anybody, never just to about myself. I do what's best for the team to get the dub at the end of the day.
I gotcha. On the flip side of that coin, athletes are role models. They are an inspiration to a lot of different people, whether it be the youth, young adults, athletes, older people, just people in general. Um, how important is it to you as a prospective future professional athlete? How important is it to you the image that you portray on and off the field to those that may look up to you and call you a role model?
Yeah, very, very important to me. I don't want to sit out here and sit here and say you got to do this and you got to do that, and then off the field or you see me in the news or you see me on social media having a temper tantrum, throwing rants, and just doing all types of crazy stuff that we've seen athletes done in the past before. So for me, being a role model is important because, I tell people all the time, it's just not about being an athlete when you're in college or when you're in high school. It's about being a student athlete. So taking care of what you need to take care of on and off the field, in and out the classroom, in and out of the weight room, how you carry yourself. Because, when you playing for a club or a team or an organization, you're not just representing yourself. You're representing that club. You're representing your family back home, and you got to take pride in that. You got to have a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? You got to have a certain it factor about it. So when put on that jersey or you with a program or an organization, it's bigger than you. It's about how people look at you. You got kids that they potentially they look up to us, as athletes or whatever. We want to be like you one day. How can I get where you get? What can I do to do? Just work hard. Just don't give up. If you got a dream, go catch it. Go get it. Go be a dream chaser. Don't let nobody get in the way of what you're trying to do. My grandpa always told me, if you doing something, if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping. So you got to make sure you always doing. You got to make sure you holding yourself to a certain standard, setting the standard, setting the stone. Because even when we done with the game at the end of the day, the legacy that we leave behind, you want to make sure that you leave behind a good image for people to follow up on, how the greats, how we look up to, maybe like a LeBron or a Kobe or a Pat Manning or a Danian Tomlinson or a Walter Payton or a Barry Sanders. Those are all athletes that you know took care of what they needed to do. On and off the field, you didn't really hear about them as much in the news and the media about bad things. So definitely, I would say that's something big for me. As an athlete, you have to carry yourself the right way. You never know who's watching, and you never know who's looking up, and you can potentially save a kid's life. You never know what you're capable of being an athlete. That's why I tell people. It's more about than just dribbling a ball or running with a ball or catching a baseball. It's deeper than that.
Okay. All right. Um, one other aspect that kind of goes hand in hand with that is the community service aspect. College teams, professional teams, they all have their own philosophy. They all have their own vision of what community service looks like to that particular team or organization. Talk a little bit about a community service activity that you uh, took part in as a college athlete that really resonated with you, and something that maybe you decided, hey, I want to be able to be a part of these things in the future. And then on the flip side of that coin, talk about something that community service wise that you've identified as a potential future professional athlete, um, that you want to become involved in, that you want to leave your mark on, community service wise, whether it be something that you heard about on the radio, TV commercial you read about on social media, a friend told you, a family member told you about, however you may have found out about this particular activity. Just talk about something that you identify moving forward that you want to get involved in and leave an impact on.
Definitely for me, I would say it started for me when I was in high school, my senior year, going into my freshman year of college when the tornadoes really hit Joplin. I was blessed enough to go out there with my teammates and my coaching staff at the time. We went out there and helped clean up stuff, gave back to the community, helped out with food drives, picked up stuff, helped with searches for animals and kids and stuff. And really for me, that's when it hit me. And I was just like, man, like, you never really know what somebody's going through. Be blessed, be grateful and thankful, for what you have, because you never know, it could be taken away from you in a snap of a finger. So going through that definitely like opened my eyes up and wanted me to make sure that like, hey, like wherever I am, I want to make sure that I leave an impact, or if I can just change one person's mindset or put a smile on a kid's or a person's face, that's what it's all about. So from there, really through my college days, we participate in many community services events as far as like back to school drives, donating supplies and stuff for kids that didn't have it in need, food banks, food drives. Sometimes we would even like take money out of our own pocket and like raise money and stuff to give to the communities and to give back to the community as far as like for food, supplies, even like with the aspect, just if you're trying to learn more about the knowledge of football or trying to learn more about the knowledge of what it's like in a classroom and stuff like that, just being around a group of guys and organization and coaching staffs that was blessed to put me in opportunities like that. It's definitely been a journey. And like right now for me, currently what I'm doing right now, I'm helping out coaching seventh grade football. So it's fun to be around kids. They want to learn more about the game, give back to my knowledge, what I've learned, to kids so they can make sure they learn the game the proper way, what it means to be a student athlete, most importantly, taking care of what you need to in and out of the classroom. But yeah, I feel like, giving back to a community is something definitely that every organization needs to do, because, at the end of the day, if you want somebody to be behind you and to support you, the number one people that's going to be doing that is the community, the fan base, the kids, the teachers, those people out there, just putting a smile on people's face, when they see us out there wearing our jersey, helping out, donating toys or, Christmas drives, Christmas banks and stuff like that. It's really joyful, At the end of the day, just, putting a smile on people's face and, just being a good person, just being a good citizen, like just giving back to the world. I tell people all the time, like, what you put into the world is what you're gonna get out energy wise. You put in good energy, you're gonna receive good energy. You give out bad energy, you're gonna give out bad energy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk a little bit about this coaching experience. How did you get into that, and what's been the highlight of coaching so far?
Really, for me, when I graduated, I was just like, I want to have a good job, but I want to do something. I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm getting up every day and I'm happy about it. I don't want to be that person, getting up every morning and just dreading my job. So really with me, I feel like football has helped me out in tremendous ways. It kept me out of trouble. It kept me kept me out the streets. It kept me, focused on the bigger picture. So
Right.
definitely I wanted to make sure when I got into it, I just applied. I was grateful enough for an opportunity to sat down with a former coach, a former player that's running this league right now, and he was blessed enough to bring me on, and it's been a ride. Just with me, just being around the kids, like just teaching them the fundamentals of the game, being around the energy and the atmosphere, and it reminds me of myself when I when I was younger. When you go out there and you running them sprints and you running them gassers and stuff, and just being around your teammate and a group of guys and just lollygagging around and stuff like that. But also too, it's like, you want to make sure you lock in. Like, when we at practice, this is our place for, we can forget about anything that's going on outside of our lives, any problems what we doing at home. Like, let's just zone out right now. Let's just lock in. Let's just have fun. So for me, it's been a journey. It's been fun coaching the kids, giving back to a community and stuff like that, being around different coaches, different type of players. I really just tell people, what you put into the world is what you gonna get back and what you receive. So, for me at the end of the day, my goal is, I'm not really worried about trying to make sure that, you know, I find the next Ray Lewis or the next Pant Manny. Is just, they're in that stage right now in seventh grade where you gotta develop them. Yeah, nobody not might really remember or care what you've done in seventh, eighth, or ninth grade, but taking what you've learned and the knowledge and developing that skill set as a player and as a young adult, from a young man to an adult, and when you get to high school, I feel like that's when you're gonna separate yourself from other athletes and separate yourself from the crowd. Like, okay, like, yeah, you might have been better than me in seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, but I've locked in. I was at practice every day. I developed these skills over time, and they gonna show. Just talking to the kids, teaching them, the difference between formations, pulling guards and stuff like that, cover two, cover zones, and formations and stuff like that. It's been fun. Like, I love it.
um, talk about, guys all the time want to go overseas, and I always tell them that one of the things that can make you stand out as an import player is having that coaching experience or the willingness to coach. Because in Europe, um, their um, their budgets are limited, and so a lot of times they are, looking for um, a way to kill two birds with one stone. They're trying to bring in a player that has coaching experience or willing to coach, so that they don't have to go out and try to hire a coach and a player, because then that costs them more money. So anytime you can find a player that's got coaching experience and wants to coach, it makes them more marketable and sets them aside from other import players. Um, how open would you be if a team asked you to not just be a player, but to come over there and also coach one of their youth programs? In Europe, they do the U program like soccer. They don't do middle school and high school ball like we do. They do soccer. So maybe it's a U19, a U17, a U15, whatever. Um, how open are you to coaching as well as being a player overseas?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I would not have no problem with that. If I'm grateful enough and given the opportunity to be brought into a program and the organization, the club, I want to make sure that, they make sure they used all their resources and tools and, gave a chance on me. I'm gonna reciprocate that back. I'm gonna make sure that you get the best out of me as a player on and off the field, a coach on and off the field, giving back to the community, and just teaching the game the right way. We want to make sure we're teaching the game the right way. You don't want people out here learning the game the wrong way. Or, I tell people all the time, like, you know, it's not all the time. It's really about X's and O's most of the time when trying to learn football and two, but just being impactful, to the game, giving back to the game, what it did for us, growing up as kids and building us as characters from kids to young men to now being adults. So, if given that opportunity, I would have no problem. I would have no problem with that giving back.
Okay, all right, I got you. Um, who do you look up to and why?
Celebrity or just a family member or just anybody in general?
Could be anybody. It could be a parent, could be childhood friend, coach, professor, teacher, former counselor. It could be a trainer. It could be somebody that you met out on the street that gave you a piece of advice that stuck with you, and you applied to your life. Or, I mean, really, it could just be anybody.
Definitely, I would have to say my mom. Growing up, I'm the oldest of seven, so it wasn't really easy for us coming up. But where I learned my hard work, having good ethic skills, being a good communicator, and being a respectable person. I really learned all that from my mom. My mom always been a hard worker. Always been gullible, uplifting person. She can have the most bad day on her. She can have the most bad day, and you can see on her face. She can be sad, all types of things. But she'll make sure that everybody else is around her is good. Make sure everybody around her is okay. So definitely, I would say my mom is like one of the top. Not anybody. Like that's the number one person that I look up to. She's taught me a lot. Just how to be a man. How to present yourself, how to take care of yourself. How to treat people with respect. You know, simplest stuff is, a yes sir and no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am can take you a long way. Opening a door for somebody, being respectful at the end of the day. My mom always told me that's where I get that saying from. What you put into the world is, what you get out. So definitely I would have to say my mom. And then if I had to pick like an athlete, definitely I would have to say Kobe was one of the people that I looked up to. Like his worth ethic, his just desire to be great, not only on the court, but off the court as well. And I remember I was watching this interview about him and they was asking him like, what's your go-to music that you listen to get you pumped up? And he said like the theme song for Michael Myers when he's going in to like kill people. I was just like, yeah, that's just on a different level, just seeing him in the court basketball court at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with one hand shooting free throws, So that's what I always tell myself, if you hurt or if you feel like you having a down day, you really don't know what other people is going through. Be grateful for what you got. Take the best of your opportunities and what you have in front of you and run with it. And if you hurt, you still find work to do. It's a difference between being injured and actually feeling pain. When you feeling pain, it's just like okay, like it's a little bit of pain. Like, pain is temporary, but then it's just like if you injured to where like you can't perform, that's the difference. So I feel like those two people have been very influential in my life and helped me mold me to who I am today and teach me about what it is to be having good work ethic skills and being a good citizen and giving back.
Okay. Who do you try to mold your game after when you're on the field? Who do you attempt to simulate play?
Ooh, it's so many. If I had to pick a person that's retired right now, I would say LaDainian Tomlinson. Just how he carried himself on the field, what he did when he left the Chargers, played for the Jets, and just how he carried himself. I try to carry my game around him as far as like for being an aggressive runner, being downhill, being a leader. You know, something that really stuck out to me is when he broke his rushing record. He just didn't give thanks to himself. He gave his thanks to his offensive line, to the quarterback, to the coaches. So that right there, like that made me understand, like okay, like that's what leadership is. Then if I had to pick another person back in the day, definitely I would say Chris Johnson when he played for the Tennessee Titans. Just very fast, very quick, can do a little bit of everything. So I kind of compare my game around those two people. Maybe even, a little bit of Adrian Peterson in there as well. And then if I had to pick some running backs today that's playing, most definitely Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, just being very physical, being a downhill runner, for them two people, especially with Derrick Henry to be 6'4", 250 and can run, 21, 22 miles per hour at the age of 32 and looking at him, what he does, what he's doing to taking care of his body, what he's training, what he's doing on and off the field, how his meal plan is. That's something that I've done to like, tailor that helped me into my stuff right now that's helping me prepare and like, staying in shape and getting ready for the next opportunity.
You talked about preparation. Talk about your film study habits and being a student of the game. How important is that aspect of the complete football player resume?
Oh, most definitely important. My time in high school and in college, I'm studying film. I'm studying film every day. When coaches sent out that game plan for the team that we playing against, and they sent out that roster sheet and who we need to look for, something that I'm doing okay. Like I'm looking at all the linebackers. I'm watching them. I'll probably watch film when I was in college. I would say 4 or 5 days out of the week for about 1 to 2 hours a day. It could just be by myself or, with my other running back friends or, even hopping into quarterbacks meetings and stuff like that. Like, hey, like, what you guys noticing about these linebackers, how they moving? What y'all knowing about this defensive end? Like, noticing this type of front. I tell people all the time, you got to watch film. Watching film is what's going to make you a better player, and it's going to help you be a better team player as well. If you don't watch film, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't watch film and you can't tell the difference between a 3-4 and a 4-3 or a 3-3-5 and a cover two, a cover two with some stunts and stuff like that, just anything in general, like you're not going to be good. You got to study your film the same way how we take care of our bodies. And, we want to make sure that we up to par, we up to speed. Right? You want to make sure you're good at it. So definitely with me for film, always watching film, even right now to this day, I'm watching games, watching film. I like to watch John Gruden when he's talking to like these quarterbacks and watching his shows and what he's talking about, breaking down coverages and talking to people. It's always something that you can do to make yourself a better player. Like none of us are perfect. So I would say definitely for me, film is very important, especially as a running back. You want to make sure, okay, like, you got to know your skill set. You got to know your teammates. You got to know the team you're going against. They might have a crazy linebacker that loves the blitz or whatever. So you might have to prepare yourself for that week to, like we might run a lot of pass pro protection. So, it's time to get in the trenches and help out your offensive line. Or you might notice that, they got some linebackers and some corners that's, not really good. They don't stay on their toes. So, okay, game plan for this week. We might have to line you up in the slot, have you run a couple of slants or some posts, get you ready to make a man miss and to hit that second gear. Or it might be a situation where you might just play an all-around balanced team and you got to watch for those certain cues. Like, okay, like 9 times out of 10, like when he's showing blitz or whatever, he might be coming or not coming, or if that DN or if he's in a 3 technique, if he has his hand in a certain placement or whatever, like he's coming or he's going. So you might want to help out your offensive line. You might not want to just – that's what I'm saying. Like when you hear that play coming in and it's like, oh, okay, like this is my time to shine. And then you get up and you do your pre-snap read and you watch film. You got to make sacrifices. Sometimes it may be about you getting that swing route or, getting in there and trying to make a play or whatever. You might want to, okay, like let's help the offensive line on this with this block, this chip. Let's do what we got to do to get this linebacker to follow us so our other quarterback can roll out and make the play. So I feel like watching film is very key. Like it's key. You have to watch film. If you don't watch film, you're not going to be successful.
Good answer. When you've played your last game, you've hung your cleats up for the final time. Your football career is over. Where does Delshaun go next? What are your plans? What are your goals? What are your dreams after the game of football?
My dreams after football, when I hung up the cleats, is just being the best version of myself. To me, I heard it all the time when people said, like, you more than a football player, and you hear about athletes all the time trying to deal with that and try to adjust to life without football. And like, for me, I'm more than just a football player. I'm a person that gives back to his community. I'm a person that cares. I'm a person that's a coach. I'm everything. It's more than just being about being about a football player. Football is fun, but we all got to hang it up at sometimes. We all always be able to go run those 4.4s and go out there and lace it up every day. So for me, just life after football is just being the best version of myself as far as it's coaching, personal training, being a teacher, being a strength conditioning coach, whatever I'm done with and whatever I'm doing, I'm gonna make sure that I'm the best version of myself. Is that the same way and the same work ethic and the dedication that you put in as being an athlete, going to college and stuff like that, you have to put that into a job as well, because at the end of the day, I might have a family someday. I might have kids or nieces and nephews that people that, depend on me and to look up to me. And, even without having nieces and nephews or kids right now, having kids and certain people look up to you, or even having certain adults. Like, believe it or not, you can have some adults that might look up to you. They might look for you for guidance, what they can do to make themselves a better man or a better woman. So, I always try to tell myself, and I always try to tell the young kids, like, football is fun, but at the end of the day, like, we more than football players. You can be whatever you want, just whatever, all the time and the effort and the energy and the preparation that you put in for being an athlete. When you're done with the game, make sure you do it with something else too, because one day you might have a family to provide for. One day you might have somebody that looks up to you.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for taking all this time, man, to do this interview. I know it's later on a Sunday night. I greatly appreciate you taking the time. Um, Let everybody know what social media apps are you on? How can they find you if they want to reach out to you directly? What's your username, your handles, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Right now, you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram name on there is big_ape, like APE 96. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter name is D_Higgs 31. And you can find me on Facebook as well. It's just my name. It's Delshaun Higgins.
Okay. All right. I got a bonus question real quick before we get out of here.
All right.
You know, EA Sports, big time video game production company came out with college football and, of course, Madden. It was taken away from us for several years, some lawsuits and other legality issues. Um, After the smoke settled and all that was kind of worked out, they gave it back to us. And obviously, it's been a big deal since it hit the market. And they're getting ready to obviously, release 26, and that's a big deal. So my question to you is this: the final question. Part A, do you own it? Part B, have you played it? And part C, if you have played it, who are you running with?
Yeah, I got NCAA right now. It was definitely a blessing to have it back. When I first came, when I heard they were coming back, but I didn't believe it at first, and then when they finally came out with it, I just felt like a kid again, back on NCAA 14 on the road to
Yep.
glory or dynasty
Yep.
mode. Fill
Yep.
that trophy box up. So definitely, I'm thankful for the game to be back. I'm on PlayStation right now, and the team that I'm rocking with right now, I'm rocking with two teams. I've been really playing with Miami, and believe it or not, I've been playing with Arkansas. I don't know why. Those two teams have really been intriguing and very intriguing on the game. Like with Dynasty and stuff right now, I'm doing it with a couple of friends and stuff. And they got this new thing called Team Builder where you can like import teams, like colleges that are on the game or like high schools and stuff. So we
Okay.
kind of do that from time to time or whatever. But like now what we're doing is just some simple old school SEC style stuff. So definitely Arkansas is somebody that I've been rocking with right now. I love it. I hear so many negative things about the game. People been saying like it's the same stuff. I'm just like, man, I'm just happy to have a game, man. Before this,
Exactly.
we didn't have NCAA. It was just Madden. Like definitely, I was more of a Madden person, but since this NCAA has came out, like it's brought me back to my roots. I've been on nothing but just NCAA right now.
I can remember all the way back to the first PlayStation, the mod chips and burning copies of games on CDs and that college football game. When I was on active duty in the Marine Corps, it was about that time that all that was going on. I can't tell you how many fights that game started late at night on a Friday or Saturday night. Other Marines, my neighbors who were Navy sailors, my daughter's godfather would come over. We would talk so much trash and start so many fights with that game, and we'd watch all the games during the day, and then we'd play them all back out on college football at night on the PlayStation. And there's some hurt feelings at night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People got hurt feelings. Remotes got thrown.
Mm-hmm.
It was all sorts of trash talking that went on during that time. So I would be just, ecstatic just to have the game back and be able to play again and that kind of thing. So yeah, I wanted to ask you that real quick. That's kind of our bonus question. So, again, I appreciate you taking time out. I know I've took a lot of your time on a Sunday night. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. Any coach, scout, GM, player, personnel, director who may watch this now or see it later in the coming days, if you have an opportunity you'd like to discuss about Delshaun, feel free to call, text, email, direct messages. That information has been scrolling at the bottom of the screen, along with how to access his profile page. You can find our information on our social media pages, our website. Feel free at any point in time, day or night, to get in touch with us. And so, with that, listen, I hope you have a good Monday. Don't work too hard tomorrow. I'll be in touch here in the next day or two. Your profile page is already online. I'll get this added to it tonight and get that updated for you. So, but we'll be in touch over the next several days. Myself or Coach Behan checking in on you. So,
All right. Oh, for sure. Appreciate you having me.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm gonna check in with you tomorrow for sure because I want to see how that Monday night game goes with your Chiefs.
Oh, for sure. We
I'm,
go. We
I'm,
gonna go out with the dub.
I'm a big Andy Reid fan when y'all win and he does that whole "how about them" and the whole stadium goes Chiefs. I love when he does that stuff. So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll check in with you tomorrow. So we'll see how Monday night game goes.
Mm-hmm. No problem. You have a good night. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, man. And that wraps up another interview. We look forward to having everybody back here on another Hidden Gems one-on-one interview. Hope everybody has a great start to your week, and we'll see you again soon. And let's see.